Good morning, everybody. We are at Roosevelt State Park in Mississippi. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, honestly. It was, for us, it was between Helen, which is where we had Oktoberfest at, and Texas, basically. But we're going to stop off in Louisiana on the way to Texas. So anyway, this is us at the Roosevelt State Park in Mississippi. And it is, yeah, super gorgeous. However, there is, like, obviously positives and negatives, and unfortunately in this video I think it's going to be maybe more negatives than positives, but we want to try to just be honest and truthful, and it doesn't help anybody if we just gloss it over and only share it with you like part of the information. So anyway, to start with, when we arrived here, I was just a little bit suspicious because the roads were so narrow and it was so hard to just get to the campsite. You can see the road here is pretty narrow. You have to weave between cars, and it was worse than this. There's not even enough room to pass another car. This is a one-way road that I'm on, but even the two-way roads, you have to kind of drive off into the bushes to let somebody get by inside the state park. Now you're going to say, okay, that's how it is in a lot of state parks. 100% correct. That is how it is like at a lot of state parks. This is the third state park that we've been at this month, and maybe state parks are just kind of rubbing me the wrong way right now because they're a little bit more difficult than commercial campgrounds, and they're definitely not beginner friendly. So, and we're not beginners. We've been full timing for a year and a half. If you haven't been watching the channel, but anyway. It was a little bit difficult in White Knuckle to get to the campsite itself. The campsite is 2 miles from the place that you check in, and the place that you check in at, they have this open parking lot. They expect you to drive up there, check in, and then make like a U-turn in their gigantic parking lot, and I guess you have to just hope there's nobody parked in the parking lot for you to make the U-turn. That's a little kind of iffy. So this is the site right here that we're in. Like I said, beautiful view, very quiet, peaceful, that kind of stuff. So anyway, the first thing you're going to notice is the camper is below the road. That's okay. That's not the end of the world. The camper's below the road. It just means that there's a little bit of a ramp. However, you'll also notice that there is a big drop off, and it probably looks kind of flat on the camera, off the sidewalk here, or off the road here. You can even see it on this side, that side. All these sites, there's drop offs. So you have like the combination of narrow road, drop offs, and these kind of like weird angles going on. So what's kind of, I don't want to get too bitchy, but what this leads to is basically backing in for 45 minutes when normally I could back the camper in like a minute or two. Okay, so I'm pretty good at backing up. Okay, so you're gonna be like, Nathan, why did it take 45 minutes for you to back up a trailer? And then, the neighbors came out and said they had the same problem too. Why did it take everybody 45 minutes to back in a damn trailer if you've been full timing for a year and a half? Well, the problem is when you're doing like a 3-point turn and you have like a 40-foot rig like we do with like 39.5 feet, in order to move it like left or right to get it where you want it at, you have to move like a certain distance and then turn the wheels and stuff and then move back, right? Just like a 3-point turn when you're like in a parking lot with a car. But if you don't have enough space, you end up just like moving a foot forward, moving a foot back, moving a foot forward, moving a foot back. You have to do it like many times in a row. So that was the kind of the situation that we had. Why did we have that situation? Once again, I mentioned how there's these gigantic drop-offs, and probably if you're new, you're going to be like, okay, who cares? There's some gigantic drop-offs. What happens is the camper will be either on the pavement or off the pavement, and the truck will be either on the pavement or off the pavement, and the camper will want to tilt in one direction, and the truck will want to tilt in the other direction. The direction being whichever wheel is off the pavement, basically. And not only that, but if you look here, the pavement is even flat. The pavement is actually tilted too, which compounds the issue. And if they're both off the pavement on opposite sides, because you're like coming in at a really weird angle, then the camper will be one way and the truck will be the other way. And you typically only have about a hand worth of space on your bed rails, and you'll munch the camper against the bed rails. So that's the concern. And it took us 45 minutes to get in this site without damaging the truck and the camper, which is probably the most important thing. In the process of backing up, I actually considered just leaving and just giving up the money to camp here, because we camped here for almost a week, or going up to the office and asking if they could give us a refund. My wife had the same opinion. While we were doing it, we were so frustrated. Definitely that is not the way that you want to start an experience somewhere. You know, you don't want to start frustrated. You want to start happy and relaxed and partying. And that was not the situation. And everybody I spoke to around us basically had the same situation, who had fifth wheels. So the Solitude there, and us. However, I've watched people come in over the week that we've been here, and this is the 2.0 of the video. I'm making the video now the day that we're leaving instead of the day that we arrived, where I've gotten to relax a little bit. I watched the Class A down there back in. They backed in like 30 seconds. I was so impressed with them. So I guess I could say this place is very Class A or Class C friendly, extremely Class A, Class C friendly. Probably it's friendly to bumper pools also. I don't know if they had that many problems, but they don't really have to worry about bed rails so much. I mean, you can like twist a travel trailer pretty far until it wants to jump off the hitch without worrying about bed rails. So I would say, you know, if you have a travel trailer, probably you're not going to have this problem here. If you have a Class A or a Class C or a Class B, you're probably not going to have a problem here. Probably the problem is limited to gigantic fifth wheels. So I do have to kind of point that out because not everybody has a fifth wheel on the channel. So anyway, we got past this. It's not leveled, whatever. Let's not talk about it anymore because I probably wasted way too much of everybody's time talking about backing up and leveling and stuff. The site itself is extremely narrow. I worked very, very hard on getting close to that edge. I'm not like on the edge. If we went over there and measured it, I'm probably 3 inches from the edge. Unfortunately, 3 inches would not even buy enough space to let it so the stairs could actually touch the concrete because it would end right here, and that's like 1.5 feet. So we ended up having to just put them on the dirt, and even with them on the dirt at maximum length, they do not reach. What a bummer, right? So we're using shoes. That's pretty ghetto. This little step here is actually Kimberly's step to get in bed. If you know much about large campers, they don't have king-size beds. They have RV king-size beds, which means that you end up buying kind of specialized mattresses, and they don't really have box springs either. So if you want something comfortable, you end up with this specialized mattress that's like super tall, unless you do fancy cutting or whatever. So anyway, that's her step to get in bed. So right now it's a little bit harder for her to get in bed, but we're lucky that we hit the little step that we could put out there so we could actually get in and out of the camper. I almost got concerned when we first pulled in that we wouldn't even have a way to put the steps down to actually get in the camper. Now, the narrowness of the site. We talked about that. There's all these little stakes everywhere, right? Stakes everywhere. Look, there's a stake right here. Like I'll sit next to the stake. The stakes say pad CNR. I'm sure the CNR means something, but the word pad obviously means that word there. So I'm assuming that means that they are going to be making these pads humongous, right? So right now it's about where Grace is, a little bit past Grace, down there, over there. The other thing, just to kind of rewind a second or two, you might be like, Nathan, you went in a little baby site in this state park. This site is actually rated as a 65-foot site for 50-foot campers, and we have a 39.5-foot camper. So it is definitely not a we reserved the wrong site. And you can see actually the truck fits in front of it. If this was like a 40-foot site, it'd be where the truck is. And then the other thing to point out, and everybody did this here at this site, I don't know, at this campground that I've seen so far, every class fifth wheel, so to speak, is basically you're 10 feet off the back of the site, just hanging off. You can see I'm way past into the pad. Everybody did that, so off that. So anyway, some of the sites have rings, fire rings. Some of them do not. We do not have a fire ring, but that's where our fire ring used to be. They have a fire ring. We actually camped with these guys over here. They have a fire ring too. The fire rings are humongous. They're old school fire rings. The picnic tables are disgusting. You can see here, like, yeah, terrible picnic table. It looks like it got caught on fire. It's made out of concrete. It's not level. It's tilted. It has a gigantic crack here. But it's a state park. That's what you get at state parks. Some of the state parks are new and redone, but it's obviously not going to be a commercial campground, so I can't be too complainy. They had signs up for fishing. This lake is humongous, and they had some fish I had never heard of. I think they're like crappie and shiny and stuff. I don't know what these fish are, but you could get like 20 of one of them, 40 of another one of them, and then like unlimited of the other one. So to me, if you can fish out like hundreds of fish out of this lake every day, Seems like maybe pretty cool for fishing if you're a fisherman and if you have a fishing license. We don't have a fishing license. We do fishing, but we do it just like for fun or whatever with friends. We you know, that's just how we are. But this is the state park. Today we pull out and we go to Alabama. The other thing to point out is when we were backing in, we actually came off the edge of the pavement, and you have the 6 jacks on the fifth wheel that go down to level it, that are normally like a foot or two off the ground. We were so far at such an angle that we actually had one of those legs actually touch the ground. This is super scary. Yeah, those are supposed to be a foot off the ground. They're never supposed to touch the ground except for when you're leveling. When you're backing in and one of them hits the ground, it means that like something's going way wrong, you're way the wrong angle, or something like that. So fortunately, I had just rolled off the pavement with the truck, and I just went forward and got myself back on the pavement and moved maybe 1/10 of an inch, like very tiny bit amount of it, with it just touching the ground, and it just like basically lifted right off the ground because I caught it right when it wanted to touch the ground. I didn't like drag it or anything bad like that. You need to be very, very careful when you are at state parks, especially backing in, getting in. They are just a little bit more of a challenge than commercial campgrounds. You need to be careful with commercial campgrounds too, but you see this more here. I think that is about all I have for this video. There's like a water park looking thing over there. Oh, campgrounds. They have multiple campgrounds here. That's the old campground. This is a new campground that we're in. Then there's another campground over here. We looked around them. They all look about the same to us. I'm not really sure why they call one old and one new. We didn't look at the one across the road. I think that's primitive camping only, so that's why we don't primitive camp. I mean, that's 40 feet long, right? And then we spoke to some folks. They actually do long-term camping here, which is, I didn't know that state parks did that, but they do that here. They don't allow you to long-term camp along the water. That's the one rule. You have to long-term camp like on the inside of the campground. And the price that I heard was like $450 a month. We did get out of the campground. Here we are here. You can see here the site, how it's like dipped down this way and then in a hole. It only took a couple 3 points. We got out in about 5 minutes. Normally we can do it a little quicker, but it was nowhere near as stressful as it was getting in. But yeah, we're safe, and we are moving on to the next adventure.